Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Answer Outdoors. Hopefully you can hear me on this beautiful spring morning. We're shooting outside, and today I'm going to go over my top 10 soft baits for springtime. And stick with me, this will be awesome. Smash that subscribe button down below, follow the links for all these baits, and also hang out to the end of the video so I can give you my number one overall secret bait for multi-species angling that you probably have in your tackle box and you probably don't have it tied on right now. So stick around for an awesome video. Hello everyone, welcome to Answer Outdoors. I'm Justin Hunnell, and thank you for allowing me to fuel your outdoor passion. Alright guys, here it is, our top 10 springtime soft baits. Check it out. I'm going to go over the way I have each of these rigged and give you a quick rundown on the rod or combo you should be throwing these on. Everybody's going to vary a little bit, and all these baits are representations. It doesn't have to be the exact lure or bait. It can be something very similar. These are just my choices. You probably have your own, and I'd love it if you put it down in the comments down below. But for right now, let's jump to it. All right, guys. Number one, these are in no particular order, is going to be every northern angler's favorite. Whoop. And that is going to be a basic everyday tube. So let's check it out here. Right there, we have this tube rigged. It's actually a flipping stick, so it's a 7.6 medium heavy, extra fast with a 1/2 ounce tungsten. And this is a Venom tube. So, you know, it's green pumpkin. You guys, if you haven't seen my videos before, check out the 2-color video. It's 2-color tackle box. So I'll link that above. And this is very great for early spring fishing. So you can drag it like a emerging crawdad, or you can put a white tube on and fish bedded fish as they come up post or during spawn. But pre-spawn, I like to drag this as the crayfish are emerging and really keep it towards the bottom. You can stupid jig this, stupid tube this. You can use a standard jig head on this. You can swim these. You can fish it weightless. You can fish on a Carolina rig. But the way I have it rigged right now is a basic Texas rig. So it's a peg sinker on a Trocar flipping hook, and I do have this on braided line. But you can throw this on a spinning rod. You can throw this on anything. It's really a great bait, and I love a tube, especially in northern climates, but it's a seriously underutilized lure. So that is essentially my number 10 springtime bait. All right, guys, my number 9 springtime bait is going to be some sort of hula grub. This in particular is one of the Yamamoto hula grubs, and I'm a big fan of this bait, again, to imitate crawfish in the summer or in the early spring. Here it is. This is a smoke color with some black flake, and I'm throwing this on a swing jig. So you can see that there. You got a football head. It's snapped to a extra wide gap hook, and again, I like to use this as a crawfish imitator. Emerging crawfish, really key, or that's a really key food source for bass. They're going to be all over that. You might like throwing something else for that imitation, but I'm a big fan of this setup. It tends to, again, be something I keyed in on the northern climates. Definitely worked down south. Definitely picked up some spotted bass with this from time to time. This is paired up on a 7-foot medium heavy, just basic everyday blackout. You guys have seen this rod from me before in a 6-gill Cyclone in a 7:0:1 ratio. This is a basic setup. This is going to be 15-pound fluorocarbon. This is going to be very similar to my 1-rod combo. You'll see in a video I'm going to link above. And just a great bait. I tend to drag this on the bottom, again, slowly reeling, ticking the bottom cover, looking like a piece of bait, i.e. a crawfish, really trying to get away from those smallmouth, largemouth bass in the spring. And you can fish this at multiple depths just by changing the size of the swing jig that it's on. You can also fish this on a football head. It makes an awesome football head bait, and you can also fish it on a regular jig head. I tend not to Texas rig these. I tend to keep them on some sort of jig head. It's a great presentation on a jig head. It's one of the few baits that I do predominantly throw on a jig head as well. So a hula grub is my number 9 springtime soft bait. All right, guys, my number 8 soft springtime bait is everyone's favorite, the Ned rig. This is the TRD from Z-Man on a TRD Ned rig head right there. My favorite color, green pumpkin, black flake. And you're going to see me throwing this on a spinning rod. This is going to be the 1-3 fishing Creed on a blackout 7-foot medium with 15-pound braided Power Pro to a 10-pound or 8-pound. This is spider wire fluorocarbon leader. So this is the ultimate in finesse fishing. This is the technique that if you put a lot of guys to it and they just have to catch a fish, they're going to throw this Ned rig. And you can throw this again year round, but it does really shine pre-spawn when the fish are first starting to come up. And you know, it's the Z-Man, and I do tend to use the Z-Man in a Ned rig. The reason I use the Z-Man is it floats. So that Ned rig really stands up with this bait. And I'm a big fan of throwing spinning tackle. I do not shy away from it like a lot of bass fishermen do. But the thing about this is, it is slow. It is not power. It is the exact opposite of power fishing. Like really, it's the exact opposite. So you're gonna fish this slow. You're gonna let it sit, and it's a great way for beginning anglers to catch bass. If you're looking for numbers, not to say you can't catch big fish, but you want to fill out a limit, this is a great way to do it. In the springtime, sometimes all it takes to make a day of fishing great, if we're pre-spawn, is really to fill out a limit. So it's really a great way to do that, and it's as good a slow presentation as you're ever going to find. So that is number 8, the Ned rig. All right, guys, here it is, number 7. You can hear it clanking around already. This is going to be, this in particular is a Yum Lizard, and I have this rigged up on a Carolina rig. So I'm going to drop it down here. Wham, there it is, Carolina rig. Now that is a steel egg weight and a glass bead with a swivel. I do use a bit of tungsten, I use a bit of brass, and I use a bit of steel. Don't think that you have to spend $1 million to Carolina rig, especially if you don't throw it super often. You can get all of these components at your local Walmart or any place else like that. But let's focus on the bait. I'm not a huge lizard guy, I'm really not. But I do love a lizard on a Carolina rig, and I do love a Carolina rig in that pre-spawn period where the fish are really staging off points and off creek beds. And I like to throw that Carolina rig on a lizard on a standard everyday worm hook. You got a lot of line out there, you got a long leader, you got a swivel, you have a lot to deal with. So I like something very easy to penetrate that plastic and get through that fish. This is a Texpose rig, meaning the hook point it's Texas rig, but the hook point's slightly out. You can always skin hook it there like that. And I am throwing this on a 7'1" medium heavy. This is a Fate Black, 1-3 fishing Fate Black, and this is a 6-gill Cyclone. I have 15-pound fluorocarbon, and this is one of the few rigs that I absolutely throw fluorocarbon with because you're going to be bumping a lot of rocks, and I don't want to get pinch on braided line. Just a good search bait, actually, in a soft plastic. You can actually search for fish with a Carolina rig. You can also pick fish off structure, and really, when it comes to the lizard, I'm a big fan of the lizard in a black with a chartreuse tail for bedding fish. So when those fish finally come off and they start to bed, I like sight fishing this lizard. It has a little more action than I would generally throw for sight fishing with something like the tube in white, but really a lizard in the spring just seems to really trigger fish. It's not something I throw year round except on a Carolina rig, and it's not something I really throw on a Texas rig too much, with the exception of sight fishing. So really, a lizard's a rare choice for me, but I thought I'd throw it in there because it's just such a killer bait in this format during the early spring. So there it is, the lizard. All right, here it is, guys, my number 6. And my number 6 is going to be some sort of creature bait. And this happens to be a Reaction Innovation Sweet Beaver in Sweet Craw color. This is rigged up on the essentially emerging now, you can see it there, Tokyo rig. I do have a flat cylindrical weight on there. So the Reaction Innovation, Reaction Innovation Sweet Beaver is one of my favorite creature baits. I throw it quite a bit, and this bait is just good for, it has some nice appendages on there. So let me get this out of the way so I can actually show you. It has some nice appendages on there, but especially like bedding fish. I love it in this with the VMC Tokyo rig. You can drop that bait stays right where you want it to. You can work the bait without moving the actual weight. You can punch this by just changing the sinkers. You know, the weight on there right now is 3/8. This is a Daiwa AirX 7-foot heavy action rod. So this rod is really meant to throw braid. That's the way they market it. And again, a 6 gil. This is a Typhoon, so this is a higher series reel, and 7/0 to 1, and I use this in a left-handed reel. I like to just pitch and hold. This is also the rod I use quite a bit for frogging. I fish out of a kayak a lot, so I don't want to be in a down presentation hitting that water. So I use this quite a bit for frogging and quite a bit for pitching, you know, a bait like this Reaction Innovation here. Now, a creature bait, it can be any creature bait. And you can also throw a creature bait, is really got to start for Carolina rigging. But, you know, it could be a baby brush hog, it could be a Reaction Innovation, it could be a rage bug, it could be any of those. A vile craw, something like that. But I'm a big fan of a creature bait. You could also use a craw imitator in this case. But, all right, guys, my number 5 is my go-to, and that is any sort of stick bait, but this happens to be a Yamamoto Senko. It's the classic. It's the one and only. You can throw a Yum Dinger. You can throw an Ocho. I prefer a Yamamoto Senko. And in that, this is blue-black laminate. This is one of my top secret colors I've told you guys about before. So check it out. I'm throwing this on, currently rigged, a VMC Wacky Rig jig head, and that is the way I throw this bait a majority of the time. So I have an O-ring on there, I have the Wacky Rig jig head, and I'm tossing this to all sorts of visible targets. I'm also just finesse creeping this, and currently it is rigged up on a 6.5 to 1 6 gil Cyclone on a 7-foot medium action blackout. So again, we've covered this before, but the 1-3 fishing chrome is very similar. This is the older model of that, before number 8 tackle went away and became just 1-3 fishing totally. So if you can get your hands on one of those, that's a great rod, just period. So with that, this is 10-pound fluorocarbon. I will throw this quite a bit on a spinning rod though, this exact setup. And I will throw it on that 7-foot with a 3,000 size reel, medium, braided line to a fluoro leader. That's how I throw the majority of my spinning. But you can really fish this, again, year round. But I'll be honest, I moved to Pennsylvania a few years ago. The top 5 biggest bass I've caught in Pennsylvania have been on this rig. They have all been 4 pounds plus, and they have all been on spinning gear throwing this to visible cover. This rig works year round, but I like anything slow, lethargic, and that I can feel a fish just pick it up in this time of year. The other thing you'll see with all these baits is they're great baits once you find a piece of cover that fish are relating to with a moving bait. So please check out the video before this on my top 6 hard baits for springtime. You can really pick them off with something like this after that. You can fish visible cover, you can fish deep cover, you can fish shallow cover, you can fish it anywhere. It's a great bait. So again, that is number 5, and that is a stick bait, specifically for me, the Yamamoto Senko. All right, guys, here it is, number 4. It is a Zoom finesse worm. Now, any finesse worm will work, but if you look on Tackle Warehouse, the most popular one is this one right here, and this is a Zoom finesse worm. I have this rigged up in plum. It's not a color I throw a whole bunch. I will throw it in dirty water. So right here, I have, put that back in my pocket. I have it rigged up, as you can see, on a shaky head. And a shaky head and a finesse worm is just, hey, that's a go-to bait for a lot of folks when they're in trouble. And what you'll see this time of year is a lot of these baits that I pick for soft plastics are going to be our trouble go-to baits, because the fish are more finicky this time of year. you know, we have it rigged up on a, this is actually a little lighter than I would normally throw this on. So this is a 6'6" medium light dialer reverse combo, and I have it on 10-pound braid with an 8-pound fluorocarbon leader. My leaders tend to be 6, 8, 10 feet long. I like to take the fluorocarbon, cut it off, and retie often, especially when I'm fishing light line. This is, again, a little lighter than I would throw, but I wanted a nice representation of everything rigged up for you guys to see it live. For all of you folks that don't fish all of these baits on a daily basis, I wanted to give you a good idea of how you could rig each of these. So again, this is going to be a shaky head. You can throw this bait, you can throw any shaky head, and there's advantages and disadvantages to each. But you're going to want some sort of spinning rod. You're going to want some sort of braided line on almost all your spinning rods, I would say. To a fluoro leader, it tends to be the preference for finesse fishing at this point. And I would generally go to a 6'6" to 7-foot medium on this. This happens to be a medium light. But there it is. This is just one of the perennial favorites for everybody. Again, this is a Zoom finesse worm. Any finesse worm will work. This is just a Zoom. All right, guys, here it is. This is the number 4 soft bait presentation for springtime. And this is going to be a Zoom trick worm. And I have this Nico rigged. Never mind the rod and reel. This is one of my backups to my backups, so we're not even going to cover it too much. But check it out. Zoom, as always, is a great bait, and this happens to be the trick worm, which is a floating worm. I'm really a big fan of Zoom baits. Again, just something everybody's used for a long time. They make quality soft plastics, and this particular trick worm is rigged Nico style. So it's actually chartreuse pumpkin, and I have a nail weight in the end here. Not sure if you can see that. Rigged on a finesse hook with an O-ring. And when that bait drops, it's going to hit obviously one side first, then the other side's going to hang there. This is a great sight fishing technique, and that's specifically, you know, something. This is one bait I would go to extreme ends of color on. I have bubblegum, I have chartreuse, I have bright white in this guy, and you can use any floating worm for this technique. Zoom trick worm tends to be my preference where I'm at. And I have it rigged up on fluorocarbon line right now. That wouldn't be too far from what I could throw it on. So where I say you use braid to fluoro, if you guys are more comfortable using braid, go ahead and use braid. Or, excuse me, if you're more comfortable using fluoro, go ahead and use fluoro. I just tend to be a braid guy, and I like a fluoro leader. Right now it's rigged on a 6'6" medium. That would be very similar to what I would throw. I would probably throw it on a 7-foot medium. But I like this. You can rig it multiple ways. So you can actually rig this weightless, and it is a floating worm. Sometimes in later spring, they love that presentation. But in early spring, you're creeping this along the bottom. When you do start to get into some bedded fish, you can throw it directly in a bed. You can fish this near cover. You can fish it near visible, obvious fish cover. You can fish it over a rock pile. You know, it tends not to be quite as snag-free and weedless because of that exposed hook, but they do make specific wacky rig hooks that have weed guards on them. I just don't happen to have that rigged up like that. But again, it's not necessarily about the rig in this video so much as the bait, and the bait is a floating worm. So this is a Zoom trick worm, and it's rigged Nico style. So that's a great bait. Go get you some of those. All right, everybody, here it is, my number 2 go-to springtime soft bait, and that is going to be some sort of cut tail worm. And I have this rigged up on a drop shot, and that is basically exactly how I would fish this. I have that on a 1-3 fishing source, 7-foot medium action, number 8 tackle blackout. I will put a link for the 1-3 fake chrome because it's a better version of the same rod. I'm running, again, 15-pound high vis Power Pro to a fluorocarbon, 8-pound fluorocarbon leader, and I'm running that on a finesse hook. So check it out. This is going to be the Sharpshooter. I want to make sure I got that name right. The Sharpshooter is a cut-tail worm. Yamamoto also makes a cut-tail worm. Everybody makes a cut-tail worm. I like this as a very fine finesse drop shot presentation. Spring of the year, they're going to want something small, something easy to nibble on, something good to snack on, you know, the whole thing, walking by. And you can rig it nose hook, or you can rig it threaded on the hook like that. Either presentation will work. I have this obviously on a drop shot. What's cool about a drop shot is it's just like fishing for panfish. And remember, you're going to work the bait, not the weight. So the weight stays on the bottom. You're going to want to work that lure. This is the exact rod, exact reel, exact everything I throw this bait on. This is not something I just rigged up from this video. This as you can see, I have a rubber band here for the weight. This bait's going to live on this rod. Man, drop shot works year round, as we know. It works in all the places that all those baits work. And you can actually walk a drop shot back to you. You can fish it on a slightly slack line. You can fish it on a tight line. You can work a drop shot anywhere. And if I had to go to a way to fish shallow, deep, and anywhere in between, and I was really put to one way, knowing that I could catch some fish, this is probably where it would be at, because you can also change your leader lengths. You can put it an inch above that weight. You can put it 30 feet above the weight. You can put it anywhere you want to. But it's the best way to keep a bait in the strike zone for fish. Whatever depth they're at, you can actually fish a drop shot, present that lure at that depth. So here it is. This is number 2, and this is going to be a cut tail worm. All right, guys, here it is. This is the number 1 presentation. And again, these are in no particular order, but the number 1 springtime soft plastic. We are down to a Kitech Swing Impact, and this is a soft plastic paddle tail swim bait. These baits in the springtime, I gotta be honest, if I gave an honorable mention in the spring of the year, this time of year, that honorable mention would go to a Super Fluke or Fluke, some sort of soft plastic jerk bait. But I really think that a soft plastic swim bait shines this time of year, and you can present it in multiple ways. I have this obviously on a swim bait hook. This is a 4.5 inch paddle tail swim bait. It's a shad pattern. I can fish this in 2 feet of water. I can fish it on a steady retrieve, or I can fish it in 100 feet of water. I can hop it off the bottom. I can fish it over weeds. I can fish this bait, and you can fish this bait absolutely anywhere in the water column. This is on a 7-foot, again, medium heavy blackout rod, and a 7:1 ratio 6 gill cyclone. And I have this on high vis braid with about an 8-foot fluorocarbon leader. And the braid I throw on my casting rods is going to be somewhere in that range of, say 30 to 50 pounds. This is 40-pound Power Pro. And again, you can fish this, you can get it out deep, you can fish this through structure, you can fish this through emerging weed bed, you can fish this over rocks, you can bump the bottom, you can fish this in the top of the water column, you can fish this right along a wake bait if you want to. And also, if you wanted to, you could throw this weightless and actually fish it as a top water. You can fish this also by dropping it in when the fish do start to spawn. You can sight fish these. These are a great bait for all of that. And it's not number 1 as in the first, last, or best bait I will throw, but it made the list because it is so versatile. And you do see a lot of tournaments during the spring of the year when the fish they're transitioning, they're staging. You see a lot of fish caught on a soft plastic swim bait. So that's why it made the list over a Super Fluke or something like that. The other one that was an honorable mention was going to be some sort of paddle tail worm, specifically a Zoom speed worm for me. But this just topped them out. And, these 10 baits are baits I rely on and really lean on in the springtime of the year. So hopefully you can pick some out for yourself and stick around, because I'm going to go over my number 1 all-time soft plastic bait for multi-species angling. All right, guys, here it is. This is it. If you didn't know this was going to be it, let's get a better look at it. I think you need to reconsider your lure life. All right, check it out. This is my number 1 all-time favorite soft bait for every species, and this is a white grub. Specifically, this is a Mr. Twister. So this is a 3.5 inch Excuse me, this one's 4-inch. I throw the 3-inch quite a bit. I also throw the Zoom Salty Grub quite a bit, but this is on a 1/4 ounce jig head. And if I tie this on and I'm in a place that there's spots or smallmouth or largemouth or walleye or pike or even the occasional crappie, I can catch them on this bait. You go to a river system that might have brown trout and steelhead and salmon, you can catch them on this bait. You go to a smaller size of this, you can catch every fish in the world on this thing. I've caught brook trout on small grubs, throwing them on a 32nd ounce jig, 64th ounce jig. I've caught steelhead on grubs, throwing them on this jig all the way down to the same size. I've caught pike on these with much bigger, 5 to 7 inch grubs with a big, huge, 1 ounce head. You can catch stripers, you can catch blues, you can catch everything. You can, a white grub is the fish catchingest machine that's ever been made. It's not specific to bass fishing, it's not specific to walleye fishing, it's not specific to any fishing. It's specific to fishing. So if you want to get out there and just catch some fish, tie one of these on, skip it off the bottom, straight retrieve it, yo-yo, I don't care what you do with it, you're gonna catch some fish. In fact, when I moved to Pennsylvania, the very first thing I tied on and caught a fish on was one of these, because I just wanted to get that monkey off my back. So go get a pack of Mr. Twister, Berkeley Power Bait, Zoom. It doesn't matter what grub you buy. Just get a white grub, get you some jig heads. You can buy these at Walmart. You can get them on the links down below on Amazon. You can get them anywhere. Just tie it up, bring a kid out fishing, bring somebody that's never fished before out fishing with one of these on, and they're gonna have a great day on the water. Thanks for everything, guys. Please click the links down below for these baits and stick around for some more awesome content on hunting and fishing. I know I've been pretty fishing centered lately. It's just a case of the season. So check it out. I hope you like this. If you liked it, leave some comments down below. Please subscribe. Please tell your friends about it. I just want to bring our outdoor lifestyle to more and more people. So stay safe, shoot straight, and catch a big one.